I'm Olivia Wells, 34, and I never thought I'd hear those words from my own mother. "Don't come for Christmas," she said so calmly, like canceling her daughter was as simple as canceling a dinner reservation. The shock hadn't even settled when my brother Jake chimed in. "We'll pretend we don't know you." So I stayed home alone that Christmas, nursing my wounds with discount chocolate and Hallmark movies. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. A lawyer. Now, my family won't stop calling me. If you're watching this, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Hit like and subscribe, and get ready for the family drama that changed everything. Growing up in Burlington, Vermont, I believed we were the quintessential middle-class American family. Mom taught second grade at the local elementary school, Dad worked as an accountant at a small firm, and my brother Jake and I fought over the TV remote like normal siblings. Our two-story colonial house with the white picket fence looked perfect in the Christmas cards Mom insisted on sending every year. But looking back, the cracks were always there, just beneath the glossy photo finish. From my earliest memories, Jake received the lion's share of attention. When he scored a goal in his Little League soccer game, Mom would take him for ice cream. When I won the spelling bee 3 years in a row, Mom would simply nod and say, "That's nice, Olivia." Dad would sometimes wink at me or squeeze my shoulder, his silent acknowledgement that he noticed, but he never opposed Mom openly. Despite the uneven playing field at home, I thrived academically. I earned a full scholarship to Boston University while Jake barely graduated high school. Mom explained away his poor performance. "Jake's just not book smart like you, Olivia. He has other talents." Those other talents apparently included drinking, beer, and playing video games, but I kept that observation to myself. After college, I landed a job at a respected marketing firm in Boston. Within 5 years, I was managing my own team and had saved enough for a down payment on a small condo. Meanwhile, Jake bounced between jobs, living in our parents' basement until he was 27. When he finally moved out, my parents co-signed his apartment lease and, as I later discovered, paid half his rent each month. My mother mastered the art of subtle manipulation. She never overtly criticized my choices, but her disappointed sighs and "I'm just saying" comments left their marks. When I declined a dinner invitation, "I suppose your career is more important than family." When I chose to vacation with friends instead of visiting, "We won't be around forever, you know." Her guilt trips were first-class tickets to emotional exhaustion. Dad remained the peacekeeper, the Switzerland of our family dynamics. "That's just how your mother is," he'd say during our rare private conversations. "She means well." I often wondered if he actually believed that, or if it was simply easier than confronting the truth. Jake absorbed our mother's worldview like a sponge. As we entered adulthood, his entitlement grew alongside his resentment toward me. My independence seemed to personally offend him. "Must be nice to be perfect, Olivia," he'd sneer during family gatherings. "Some of us live in the real world." Last Thanksgiving marked a turning point. I arrived with a bottle of wine and my homemade cranberry sauce, determined to maintain holiday harmony. Then Mom announced she'd helped Jake with the down payment for a new car, a sleek BMW that cost more than my first year's salary. When I questioned whether that was financially prudent given their approaching retirement, the table went silent. "Well, we don't all have fancy jobs in the city," Jake snapped. "Some of us still care about family," Mom added, as if my career success was a betrayal. I set down my fork. "I've worked hard for everything I have. No one helped me with my down payments." "Oh, here we go with the self-made success story." Jake rolled his eyes. Mom placed her hand on Jake's arm. "Let's not ruin dinner with money talk." That night, I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck on the ceiling at age 12. Something had shifted. I realized I couldn't continue absorbing their barbs without boundaries. Over the next few months, I limited my calls home to once a week instead of daily. I declined a weekend trip to help Jake move into his new apartment. I started saying no to last-minute requests to drive the 3 hours to Vermont because Mom really needed me to help organize her craft room, or Dad couldn't figure out how to set up his new printer. Each boundary I established seemed to increase my mother's resentment. "I gave up everything for you children," she said during one particularly tense phone call. The least you could do is be there when we need you. Despite everything, I still hoped for reconciliation. As December approached, I pictured us sitting around the Christmas tree. Maybe not perfectly happy, but at least civil. I requested time, off work, bought gifts for everyone, and even found an antique fishing lure for Dad's collection. I believed Christmas magic might soften the rough edges of our relationship. My life in Boston had become everything I'd worked for. My 10th floor condo overlooked the Charles River. My team at work respected me. I'd cultivated friendships with people who celebrated my successes rather than resenting them. My best friend Mia often questioned why I still tried so hard with my family. "They sound toxic, Liv," she said over brunch in November. "You don't have to keep setting yourself on fire to keep them warm." "They're still my family," I replied, though the words felt hollow even to me. "It's complicated." "Family should build you up, not tear you down," Mia insisted. "Blood doesn't excuse bad behavior." I changed the subject, unwilling to admit she might be right. Christmas was coming. Things would be better at Christmas. The call came on December 15th, 10 days before Christmas. I was wrapping presents at my dining room table, Bing Crosby crooning from my speakers, a glass of eggnog at my elbow. Mom's name flashed on my phone screen. "Hi, Mom," I answered cheerfully. "I was just wrapping your gift." "About Christmas," she began, her voice oddly detached. "We've been thinking it might be better if you don't come this year." The scissors slipped from my hand, clattering on the hardwood floor. "What? Why?" "Things have been so tense lately. We thought everyone might enjoy the holiday more if we just took a break from all the drama." "Drama? What drama?" My throat tightened. "I've barely seen you since Thanksgiving." "That's exactly what I mean, Olivia. You've been so distant. Jake says he feels like he can't even talk to you anymore without you judging him." As if summoned, my brother's voice came on the line. "Hey sis, no hard feelings, right? We just want a peaceful Christmas. Maybe next year when you're in a better headspace." "A better headspace?" I repeated, dumbfounded. "Yeah, less critical of everyone. Mom and Dad aren't getting any younger. They don't need the stress." "We'll just pretend we don't know you this Christmas," he added with a chuckle, as if he'd made a joke. My mother sighed. "Don't be dramatic, Jake. Olivia understands, don't you, dear?" "It's just one Christmas." The conversation ended shortly after. I sat amid scattered wrapping paper and ribbon, my hands shaking. The casual cruelty of it all left me breathless. They weren't just uninviting me, they were blaming me for it. I called my father an hour later, hoping for some explanation or support. "Dad, what's going on? Mom just told me not to come for Christmas." His voice sounded tired. "Your mother thinks it's for the best, Livy." "But why? What did I do?" "You know how she gets when she feels criticized. And Jake's been going through a rough patch at work. It's just easier this way." "Easier for who? Not for me." My voice cracked. "Try to understand. Sometimes it's better to keep the peace. By excluding your daughter at Christmas?" He sighed. "I should go. Your mother needs help with dinner." After hanging up, I poured myself another eggnog, this time with a generous splash of rum. I scrolled through photos from last Christmas. Mom, beaming as Jake opened the expensive watch they'd given him, Dad carving the turkey, me smiling too brightly in the background. Had I imagined that things were okay? Were there signs I'd missed? The next morning, I called Mia. "They did what?" she exclaimed after I explained. "That's beyond messed up, Liv." "Maybe they're right. Maybe I have been judgmental." "Stop that right now. They're gaslighting you. Come to my place for Christmas. My mom already loves you more than me anyway." Other friends extended similar invitations when they heard. Everyone was appalled on my behalf, which provided some validation that I wasn't overreacting. Still, the rejection cut deep. This wasn't the first painful holiday. 3 years ago, Mom forgot to tell me they'd changed Christmas dinner to Christmas Eve, so I arrived to find them finishing dessert. 5 years ago, Jake's girlfriend received a personalized stocking while mine was still packed away because we didn't think you'd bring someone. But this outright exclusion was unprecedented. As Christmas approached, I made the difficult decision to spend it alone. Mia's family gathering would only highlight what I'd lost. Other friends' invitations, while genuine, felt like charity. I needed to face this pain head-on and find my own way through it. The depression crept in slowly, then all at once. I stopped, decorating midway, leaving a half-trimmed tree in my living room. I returned most of the gifts I'd bought. My appetite disappeared, and sleep became elusive. I took long walks through Boston, watching other families' preparations with a hollow feeling in my chest. Still, I was determined not to wallow. I volunteered at a local shelter on Christmas Eve, serving dinner to people who had far greater problems than family drama. I scheduled a movie marathon for Christmas Day, prepared a small but special meal for myself, and bought a nice bottle of wine. I would create new traditions. I would survive this. Then came the social media posts. Mom's carefully curated Christmas photos appeared on Facebook on December 25th. The traditional family photo in front of the tree included a face I didn't immediately recognize. Cindy Pearson, our wealthy neighbor whose husband owned half the car dealerships in Vermont. She stood where I should have been, grinning between my brother and my father. More photos followed. Cindy helping Mom in the kitchen. Cindy opening a gift. Cindy raising a toast at dinner. Each image was a dagger. I hadn't been uninvited to make Christmas more peaceful. I'd been replaced. Messages from extended family trickled in throughout the day. Missed you at Christmas. Hope you're not sick, texted my cousin Amber. Your mom said you had to work? That's rough, wrote my Uncle Steve. They hadn't even told the truth about my absence. Something deeper was happening, something that made my stomach twist with unease. Christmas Day stretched before me like an endless desert. I woke early, habit rousing me at 7 as it did every December 25th since childhood. The silence in my apartment felt oppressive. No excited voices, no smell of Mom's cinnamon rolls, no rustle of wrapping paper. I forced myself through the motions of my planned solo Christmas. Coffee with a splash of eggnog, a video call with Mia before she joined her family celebrations. French toast for breakfast, eaten while watching It's a Wonderful Life, my sock-covered feet propped on the coffee table. My phone pinged constantly with texts from extended family. Aunt Cheryl. We miss you. Your mom says you couldn't get away. From work? Cousin Ryan. Dude, Christmas isn't the same without your sarcastic commentary on Jake's gifts. Each message required a response. Each response a decision. Tell the truth or maintain the fiction my family had created? I chose a middle path. Missing everyone too. Hope to catch up soon. Vague enough to avoid lies while preventing uncomfortable questions. Midway through Miracle on 34th Street, curiosity overcame me. I opened Instagram to see more of my family's Christmas without me. There was Cindy Pearson again, her diamond jewelry catching the light as she held up a gift. The caption read, "So blessed to have Cindy join our family Christmas this year." Something about the photos nagged at me. The living room looked different. The antique side table that had belonged to my grandmother was gone, replaced by a modern glass piece. Dad's recliner, threadbare but beloved, had vanished in favor of a sleek leather chair that must have cost thousands. My parents had never been extravagant with furniture. Dad drove cars until they died, and Mom clipped coupons religiously. Where had the money come from for this apparent home makeover? More troubling was a photo of Jake showing off what appeared to be a Rolex. My parents were comfortable but certainly not Rolex wealthy. Mom had always insisted they were saving aggressively for retirement. I scrolled back through their posts from recent months, seeing patterns I'd missed. Weekend trips to Maine, a new television, Jake's BMW. Small changes individually, but collectively, suggesting a significant financial shift. New Year's Eve arrived with no contact from my immediate family. I sent a group text, "Happy New Year, love and miss you all." No response. On January 2nd, I tried calling Mom, straight to voicemail. Dad's phone rang but went unanswered. I emailed both of them. "Is everything okay? I'm worried about you." Nothing. My concern began to outweigh my hurt. This silence was unprecedented. Even during our worst disagreements, Mom would eventually call to rehash the argument. Had something happened? Were they ill? I called Jake as a last resort. What do you want? He answered, his voice cold. To make sure everyone's okay. No one's returning my calls. We're fine, just busy. Too busy to answer a text for over a week? He sighed dramatically. Look, Mom thinks it's better if we have some space right now. Space from what? What did I do? It's not always about you, Olivia. Some things are just family business. I am family. You know what I mean. Gotta go. He hung up. Family business. The phrase echoed in my mind. What family business excluded? Me but included Cindy Pearson? The next day, Mia and I met for coffee. I showed her the photos, explained the silence. This is weird, Liv. Really weird. She studied the Christmas pictures again. Who's this woman? The one in your spot in all the photos? Cindy Pearson. She and her husband are loaded. He owns dealerships. She's on every charity board in 3 counties. They never had kids. She used to give me crunchy granola bars when I'd sell Girl Scout cookies. I hated those bars. Mia frowned. And now she's playing substitute daughter at Christmas? That's beyond odd. She hesitated. I hate to ask this, but could there be money involved somehow? The new furniture? The Rolex? The BMW? What do you mean? I don't know exactly. But when people suddenly have money and start acting weird, there's usually a story there. She squeezed my hand. Maybe you should check if your name is on any family property or accounts, just to be safe. I laughed it off. My parents wouldn't hide money from me. They're many things, but not dishonest. Even as I said it, doubt crept in. That night, I remembered something strange from last summer. Mom had asked about my full legal name on some old property paperwork. Is it Olivia Ann Wells or Olivia A. Wells? I can never remember how they wrote it on that old deed. When I'd asked what deed, she'd changed the subject. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now it sent a chill through me. January turned to February. My birthday came and went without acknowledgement from my family. The silence became a presence in my life, a weight I carried everywhere. I threw myself into work, taking on additional projects to fill evening hours that stretched too long. I started seeing a therapist, trying to untangle the knot of emotions. Would you want contact with them if they reached out? Dr. Chen asked during one session. I don't know anymore, I admitted. I'm starting to wonder if I ever really knew them at all. The constant anxiety and confusion began affecting my sleep, my appetite, my concentration. One evening in late February, I found myself sobbing on my bathroom floor at 3 a.m, clutching my phone and staring at the last family photo we'd taken together at Thanksgiving. Enough, I whispered to myself. I needed to move forward, with or without them. I deleted the family text thread, removed my parents' birthdays from my calendar, and put away the photos displayed in my living room. If they wanted space, they would have it completely. The call came on a Wednesday in early March as I reviewed campaign analytics with my team. Unknown number, Connecticut area code. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something compelled me to excuse myself and answer. Is this Olivia Wells? A deep male voice asked. Yes, who's calling? My name is Robert Harrington. I'm an attorney with Caldwell, Harrington and Pierce in Hartford. I'm calling regarding the estate of Eleanor Wells. My grandmother. A chill ran through me. My grandmother passed away 5 years ago. Silence on the line. Then, Ms. Wells, according to our records, Eleanor Wells passed away on November 12th of last year. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. That's impossible. I would have known. There would have been a funeral. I understand this must be shocking. Perhaps we should meet in person. Would you be available to come to our offices in Hartford? 2 days later, I sat in a tastefully appointed conference room, still numb with disbelief. Mr. Harrington, a dignified man in his 60s with salt and pepper hair, placed a folder before me. Your grandmother's death certificate, he said gently, and the obituary published in the Burlington Free Press. The certificate confirmed it. Grandma Eleanor, dead at 87. The obituary was brief, mentioning her teaching career, her love of gardening, and that she was survived by her son Michael Wells, his wife Patricia, grandson Jacob, and preceded in death by her husband Richard. No mention of me. As if I didn't exist. I don't understand, I whispered. Why wasn't I told? Why wasn't I at the funeral? Mr. Harrington removed his glasses. Ms. Wells, I contacted you because I'm the executor of your grandmother's will, a will that names you as her primary beneficiary. The room spun. What? Eleanor Wells left the majority of her estate to you, her house in Burlington, her investments, and most of her personal possessions. He slid another document across the table. This is a copy of the will, last updated 3 years ago. I scanned the document, my grandmother's familiar signature, at the bottom. Does my family know about this? Yes. They were informed immediately after her passing. Your parents and brother contested the will in December, claiming Eleanor was not of sound mind when she made these arrangements. December. When they uninvited me from Christmas, when they replaced me with Cindy Pearson, when they began their silence. The court dismissed their petition last month. There was ample evidence your grandmother was competent, including videos. She recorded specifically addressing her decisions. Videos? Mr. Harrington nodded, turning his laptop toward me. She asked that you see these privately. I'll give you some time. On screen, my grandmother sat in her sunroom, looking frailer than I remembered but with the same clear blue eyes. Olivia, my darling girl, if you're watching this, I've passed on. I've left instructions with Robert to find you, as I suspect your parents may not inform you properly. She smiled sadly. I've watched how they've treated you over the years. The distance they created, the favoritism toward Jake, the subtle cruelty disguised as parenting. I should have spoken up sooner, but your grandfather always counseled patience with family matters. She leaned closer to the camera. After Richard died, I saw things even more clearly. You've built a beautiful life on your own terms, without their support. You visit me regularly despite your busy schedule. You call without being reminded. Meanwhile, your mother visits only when she wants something, usually money for Jake's latest mishap. My grandmother's expression hardened. I've decided to leave my estate to you, with small exceptions for personal items your father might want. Your grandfather and I always lived modestly, but his investments did well. The house is paid off, and there's more than enough to secure your future. Your parents know my wishes, but I suspect they'll fight it. Stand firm, Olivia. This is my choice, made with clear mind and loving heart. Tears streamed down my face as the video ended. A second one began. I should explain about the house, Grandma continued. Your mother has been borrowing against it for years, using a power of attorney I foolishly granted when I had my hip replacement. Small amounts at first, then larger sums as Jake's financial troubles grew. I only discovered this recently. I've now revoked that power and updated my will, but the damage is substantial. I've instructed Robert to investigate fully. 3 more videos followed. Grandma recounting specific instances demonstrating her mental acuity. Grandma explaining why she'd left Jake only a small cash bequest. Grandma showing the collection of antique jewelry she wanted me to have, including her engagement ring. When Mr. Harrington returned, I could barely speak. They knew, I finally managed. They knew she'd left everything to me, and they hid her death. They held a funeral without me. I'm afraid so. When we couldn't locate you at the address we had on file, your mother claimed you'd moved overseas. It was only when our investigator found your current information that we learned the truth. The timing, I whispered. They uninvited me from Christmas right after they contested the will. He nodded. The initial hearing was December 14th. The court required family financial disclosures, which revealed some concerning transactions. Your parents have remortgaged their home and taken significant loans. Your brother has several maxed credit cards in your parents' names. And they've been using my grandmother's house as collateral without her knowledge. The pieces were falling into place. The new furniture, Jake's BMW, the weekend trips. Correct. We've frozen those activities now, but considerable damage was done. There's also the matter of personal items removed from the house after your grandmother's passing, but before the court sealed the property. The antique side table. Probably other valuable pieces I hadn't noticed in the photos. What happens now? I asked. The house and remaining assets transfer to you. There will be tax considerations we should discuss, And you'll need to decide what to do about the unauthorized financial activities. You mean press charges? Against my own parents? Mr. Harrington's expression was compassionate but firm. That's entirely your decision, Ms. Wells. But what they did wasn't just morally questionable. It was illegal. I left his office with a thick folder of documents and a heavier heart than when I'd arrived. My grandmother, gone without a chance to say goodbye. My family, revealed as not just emotionally manipulative, but potentially criminal. And me, suddenly the owner of property and investments I never expected. In my hotel room that night, I sobbed until no tears remained. Not just for Grandma Eleanor, though that grief was raw and fresh. I mourned the family I thought I had, the parents I believed, despite their flaws, loved me. I grieved the brother who'd played tag with me in the backyard before he learned to resent me. As I finally drifted toward sleep, my phone lit up with a text notification. My mother. We need to talk. Call us immediately. Then another. This is all a misunderstanding. Please call. And another. Your father isn't well. You're breaking his heart. After months of silence, now they couldn't reach me fast enough. The texts continued through the night and into the next morning. From Mom. That lawyer doesn't understand our family situation. From Dad. Please call Livy. We can explain everything. From Jake. Way to go, sis. Always have to be the special one, don't you? I silenced my phone and met with Mr. Harrington again to sign preliminary paperwork. By afternoon, I was driving back to Boston, the reality of my inheritance still sinking in. Grandma's house, valued at nearly $400,000 despite the loans taken against it. Investment accounts totaling over $600,000. Personal items including jewelry, appraised at $75,000. I had never expected such wealth, never planned my life around an inheritance. When I turned my phone back on at home, there were 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. My mother had even contacted Mia through Facebook, asking her to have me call home for an urgent family matter. I took a deep breath and called my parents' landline, putting the call on speaker as I paced my living room. Mom answered on the first ring. Olivia, thank God. We've been trying to reach you. I know. There's been a terrible misunderstanding with your grandmother's estate. That lawyer has it all wrong. What exactly does he have wrong, Mom? That Grandma died in November and you didn't tell me? That you held a funeral without me? That you contested her will? Her tone shifted instantly from concerned to defensive. You've been so busy with your career, we didn't want to burden you. And the will? Your grandmother wasn't thinking clearly toward the end. Jake has had such struggles. She would have wanted to help him if she'd been herself. She made the will 3 years ago. She was perfectly lucid. She even recorded videos explaining her decisions. Silence. Then, videos? What videos? She knew, Mom. She knew about the loans, about using her house as collateral. She knew everything. That's ridiculous. Your father had power of attorney. Everything was perfectly legal. She revoked that power of attorney last year. The transactions after that were fraud. More silence. I heard muffled voices. Then my father came on the line. Livy, listen. Your mother's upset. We all are. Can we please talk about this in person, as a family? Despite everything, his voice still had the power to tug at my heart. I don't know, Dad. Please. Sunday brunch at the Hilton in Cambridge. Neutral ground. Just talk. That's all we're asking. I agreed against my better judgment and Mr. Harrington's advice. The attorney insisted on accompanying me but would wait separately in the hotel lobby, available if needed. Sunday arrived cold and rainy, matching my mood. I arrived early, secured a quiet table in the corner of the restaurant, and ordered coffee to steady my nerves. At precisely 11, my parents and Jake walked in. Mom looked thinner than at Thanksgiving, strain evident in the tight lines around her mouth. Dad seemed to have aged years in months, his shoulders slumped. Jake, by contrast, still wore his entitled confidence like expensive cologne, along with what appeared to be a new designer watch. Olivia? Mom nodded stiffly as they sat. Dad reached across the table for my hand, but I kept them wrapped around my coffee cup. You look well, Livy. Jake snorted. Yeah, inheritance agrees with her. Jake, Dad warned. A server appeared to take their drink orders, providing a momentary reprieve from the tension. Once he departed, Mom leaned forward. We need to discuss this situation like adults, she began. Your grandmother was confused about family finances. Your father helped manage her affairs for years. Until she revoked his authority, I noted. A misunderstanding. She signed papers without reading them properly. The videos suggest otherwise. Mom's smile tightened. Elderly people are easily influenced. Who knows what that lawyer told her to say? She recorded those videos over a year ago, Mom, before she revoked Dad's power of attorney, before she discovered the unauthorized loans. Unauthorized? Your father is her son. Family helps family. Her voice rose slightly, drawing glances from nearby tables. She lowered it again. Everything we did was for this family. Sometimes that meant helping Jake when he needed it. And what about when I needed help? The question slipped out before I could stop it. You've always been so independent, Dad said quickly. So capable. Jake needed more support. You mean Jake demanded more support, I corrected. And you gave it to him, even when it meant stealing from Grandma. Jake slammed his hand on the table, rattling the silverware. There you go again, little Miss Perfect. You think you're so much better than me. Newsflash. Not everyone gets everything. Handed to them on a silver platter, I stared at him incredulously. What exactly was handed to me? The scholarship I worked for? The job I earned? The condo I saved for? Meanwhile, you've had every advantage. Private tutors, sports camps, car down payments, rent subsidies. Children, Mom interjected. This isn't productive. I'm not a child, I replied. I'm 34 years old, and I'm only now seeing my family clearly for the first time. Dad looked pained. Livy, we've made mistakes. We can admit that. But we're still family. Surely we can find a solution that works for everyone. What solution did you have in mind? I asked. Though I already knew. Mom answered. Your grandmother's house has been in the family for generations. It should stay that way. The investments could be divided equally between you and Jake. It's only fair. Fair? I repeated. Was it fair to hide Grandma's death from me? To hold her funeral without me? To pretend I didn't exist in her obituary? You're being dramatic, Jake said. It's always the Olivia show. No, I stood up, suddenly calm in my anger. It's never been the Olivia show. It's always been the Jake show, with Mom as producer and Dad as the silent sponsor. Well, the show's been canceled. Sit down, Mom hissed. People are staring. Let them stare. I'm done performing for this family. I gathered my purse. Grandma made her choices for a reason. I'm honoring them. Dad reached for my arm. Please, Livy. Your mother and I are struggling. The house, our retirement. You should have thought about that before you remortgaged your home to buy Jake a BMW. I gently removed his hand. I'll have my lawyer contact you about retrieving Grandma's personal items that were removed from her house. As I walked away, Mom called after me. If you do this, if you don't help your family, don't ever expect to be welcomed back. I turned at the door. You already uninvited me from Christmas, Mom. I think we're past welcome. The fallout was swift and widespread. Within days, extended family members began taking sides. Aunt Cheryl called to tell me I was breaking my mother's heart. Uncle Steve suggested a compromise for family peace. Cousin Ryan texted that he'd never thought I could be so cold. Only my father's sister, Aunt Helen, reached out with different sentiments. Eleanor told me what she planned to do, she said during our call. She was of sound mind and knew exactly what she wanted. Don't let them gaslight you, Olivia. Meanwhile, my parents launched what could only be described as a smear campaign. Old family friends contacted me with concerns about my mental state. My mother wrote a vague Facebook post about the pain when children turn against the parents who sacrificed everything for them, generating dozens of sympathetic comments. Jake went further, sending me increasingly threatening messages about family loyalty and how I would regret this betrayal. When I blocked his number, he created new email accounts to continue his harassment. The pressure was almost unbearable. I woke each morning with a knot in my stomach, checking my phone with dread. My therapist suggested temporary anxiety medication to help me weather the storm. Mia and a few close friends formed a protective circle, screening messages and fielding calls when I couldn't face another confrontation. Through it all, I struggled to maintain my professional composure at work. My team noticed my distraction, my lack of enthusiasm for projects that would normally excite me. I finally confided in my boss, who responded with unexpected compassion, approving additional personal days and connecting me with the company's legal resources. 6 weeks after the brunch confrontation, I reached my breaking point when Jake showed up at my office building, causing a scene in the lobby. Security removed him, but not before he shouted accusations about my theft of family property. That night, I made a decision that felt simultaneously terrifying and liberating. I would establish firm boundaries through legal channels. Mr. Harrington filed for a restraining order against Jake. He sent formal cease and desist letters regarding my parents' public statements, and he initiated proceedings to recover the items removed from my grandmother's house, with the option to press charges still on the table. This isn't about punishment, I told him during a call. It's about protection. Mine and my grandmother's wishes. I understand, he replied. And for what it's worth, I think Eleanor would be proud of your resolve. For the first time since that fateful December phone call, I allowed myself to believe that might be true. April brought the first signs of spring to Boston, and new developments in my unexpected inheritance saga. Mr. Harrington connected me with a financial advisor specializing in sudden wealth. Together, we created a plan for the investment accounts that honored my grandmother's practical nature while securing my future. Meanwhile, the legal boundaries began having their intended effect. Jake's threatening messages stopped after the restraining order. My parents' social media campaign quieted following the cease and desist letters. The public drama receded, leaving space for more private healing. I started weekly therapy sessions, unpacking decades of family dynamics with Dr. Chen. What you're experiencing is a form of grief, she explained during one session. Not just for your grandmother, but for the family you thought you had. Is it wrong that sometimes I feel relieved? I asked. Like a weight has been lifted? That weight was the burden of trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Relief is a natural response. As my emotional health improved, I made decisions about the tangible assets I'd inherited. I hired a property manager for Grandma's house, unwilling to sell it yet equally unwilling to live in Burlington so close to my parents. The manager reported significant items missing, confirming my suspicions about what had disappeared between Grandma's death and the property being legally transferred. Through his attorney, my father eventually agreed to return several pieces. The antique side table, Grandma's collection of first edition books, and a painting by a local Vermont artist that had hung in her dining room. Each item arrived carefully packed, with a handwritten note from Dad. I'm sorry, Livy, for everything. No signature, just those 6 words that simultaneously touched and infuriated me. The practical aspects of the inheritance provided structure, but the emotional landscape remained rocky. Extended family gatherings loomed as potential minefields. Holiday plans became complicated calculations. Even casual conversations with acquaintances could turn awkward if they asked about my family. My support system proved invaluable during this time. Mia accompanied me on a difficult weekend trip to Burlington to assess Grandma's house. My co-worker, Thomas, whose own family had disowned him when he came out, offered perspective and gallows humor. My running group provided physical outlets for emotional stress. Slowly, I built a chosen family around me. In late May, I received an unexpected message from my cousin Amber. We'd been close as children, but had drifted apart in adulthood. I need to tell you something, she wrote. Your mom called my mom trying to get her to pressure you about the inheritance. When Mom refused, your mom said some awful things about you. Really awful, Liv. Mom finally told her that maybe the problem wasn't you at all, but how they've treated you. They haven't spoken since. It was a small vindication but meaningful. Others were beginning to see what I'd experienced for years. June brought another surprise. An email from Cindy Pearson, the woman who had replaced me at Christmas. Olivia, I owe you an apology. I had no idea you weren't invited to the family Christmas. Your mother told me you had chosen not to come because you were too busy with your career. I would never have attended had I known the truth. Even more disturbing, I've recently learned they approached me primarily because of my connections with estate attorneys. I'm truly sorry for my unwitting role in this painful situation. The email confirmed what I'd suspected. My replacement had been strategic, not just cruel. My parents had been cultivating Cindy for her connections, probably hoping she could help contest Grandma's will. In July, I faced a major decision about the inheritance. The loans my parents had taken against Grandma's house had significantly depleted its value. The bank was threatening foreclosure unless the situation was resolved. I could pay off the loans, essentially giving my parents the money they'd tried to take without permission. Or I could let the foreclosure proceed, losing a significant portion of the property's value, but avoiding another financial connection to my family. I discussed it with Dr. Chen. Either choice is valid, she said. The question is, which lets you move forward with the least regret? After much consideration, I paid off the loans but had Mr. Harrington draw up documentation making it an official loan to my parents, with minimal interest and a 5-year grace period before repayment would begin. This isn't forgiveness, I explained when he questioned the decision. It's boundaries. I'm choosing what role I want their financial issues to play in my life going forward. As summer progressed, I began using small portions of the inheritance in ways that honored Grandma Eleanor. I established a scholarship at the elementary school where she had taught for 30 years. I donated to the botanical garden she had volunteered at in retirement. I took a watercolor class, something she had always encouraged me to try. In August, my mother made one final attempt at manipulation. She showed up at my condo unannounced, thinner than ever, and looking genuinely unwell. "You're killing your father," she announced when I opened the door. "His blood pressure is through the roof. His doctor says the stress could cause a heart attack any day." For a moment, the old guilt threatened to overwhelm me. Then I remembered Dr. Chen's words about emotional responsibility. "I'm sorry, Dad, isn't I?" "Well," I said calmly, "but I'm not responsible for his health or his choices." "How can you be so cold? After everything we've done for you?" The question caught me off guard, not because it was unexpected, but because I suddenly had perfect clarity about the answer. "What exactly did you do for me, Mom? You provided basic necessities, yes. But love, support, celebration of my accomplishments, recognition of my worth? When did you ever give those freely, without condition or comparison?" She stepped back as if I'd slapped her. "We gave you everything." "No. You gave Jake everything. You gave me obligations and criticism disguised as parenting." "That's not true. We always loved you. We just showed it differently because you were stronger." "I wasn't stronger. I just learned early that I couldn't count on you, so I built my strength out of necessity." Her face hardened. "If that's how you choose to see your childhood, there's nothing I can say." "You're right about that." I held the door. "Please don't come here again without calling first." As she walked away, I called after her. "If Dad truly needs medical attention, I hope he gets it, but don't use his health as a weapon against me again." It was the most honest conversation we'd ever had, and likely the last for a very long time. September marked 9 months since the Christmas rejection, and 6 months since learning of my inheritance. As the anniversary of Grandma's death approached, I made a decision that felt both terrifying and necessary. I would use part of the inheritance to establish the Eleanor Wells Foundation for Educational Equity, providing resources to first-generation college students. She believed education was the greatest gift, I told the attorney helping set up the foundation. And she would have wanted her legacy to open doors for others the way she always tried to open them for me. As summer faded into fall and another holiday season approached, I found myself reflecting on the profound changes of the past year. The family I had longed to please was now largely absent from my life. The inheritance I never expected had given me not just financial security but a painful kind of freedom. The grandmother I had loved had protected me one final time from beyond the grave. I wasn't naive enough to believe the drama was permanently over. Family estrangements have a way of reactivating during holidays, illnesses, and major life events. But for the first time since that December phone call, I felt prepared for whatever might come. I had created boundaries, built a support system, and reclaimed my power. As I hung Grandma's small watercolor landscape in my living room, the last of her personal items I had selected to keep, I whispered, "Thank you for seeing me when they couldn't." 1 year after the phone call that changed everything, I stood in my newly renovated kitchen, stirring mulled cider for the chosen family Christmas I was hosting. Mia arranged cookies on a platter while Thomas tested the fairy lights we'd strung around my living room. In the background, Nat King Cole sang about chestnuts roasting on an open fire. "Need any help with that cider?" asked Eric, the kind-eyed architect I'd been dating for 3 months. The first relationship I'd felt emotionally healthy enough to pursue since the family implosion. "Just your expert opinion on the spice balance," I smiled, offering him a taste, as our guests arrived, bringing dishes, gifts, and laughter. I marveled at how much had changed in 12 months. The inheritance had given me financial security, yes, but the real transformation had been internal. The Eleanor Wells Foundation had launched successfully, awarding its first scholarships to 5 deserving students. Grandma's house had become a revenue-generating rental property, with proceeds partially funding the foundation. The investment accounts remained largely untouched, a safety net I was grateful for but no longer defined by. My healing journey through therapy had been challenging but transformative. Dr. Chen had helped me recognize patterns I'd never seen clearly before. How I sought validation through achievement. How I apologized for successes that threatened family dynamics. How I accepted scraps of affection and called it love. The hardest part was accepting that they might never change, I told my friends as we gathered around the dining table, that the relationship I always hoped for might never exist. "Acceptance doesn't mean approval," Thomas reminded me, passing the mashed potatoes. "It just means you stop fighting reality." The reality was that my parents and I remained estranged, though the nature of that estrangement had evolved. The hostile messages had stopped. The social media campaign had fizzled. Now there was simply silence, interrupted by occasional formal communications through attorneys. Jake had moved to Florida for a job at one of Cindy Pearson's husband's dealerships, a final irony that might once have hurt, but now merely prompted a raised eyebrow. Dad had indeed had health issues, though not the imminent heart attack my mother had predicted. According to Aunt Helen, he had good days and bad, sometimes expressing regret about how things had unfolded. My mother remained unchanged, at least, outwardly. She still maintained that I had abandoned the family, not the other way around. She still spoke of my betrayal to anyone who would listen. But fewer people were listening now. "Do you think you'll ever reconcile?" Eric asked later that evening, as we washed dishes side by side after our guests had departed. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "I'm open to it, but only with boundaries and acknowledgement. I can't go back to pretending." That was perhaps the greatest gift of this painful year, the freedom from pretense. I no longer had to minimize my pain to keep the peace. I no longer had to shrink my success to avoid jealousy. I no longer had to earn love that should have been unconditional. The small acts of forgiveness had come gradually, not for their benefit, but for mine. I forgave my father's weakness, though I couldn't forget it. I forgave Jake's entitlement, recognizing it was partly cultivated by our parents. I even forgave my mother's manipulation, understanding it stemmed from her own unhealed wounds. But forgiveness didn't mean restoration. It didn't erase consequences. It simply meant I was releasing the bitterness that threatened to corrode my own heart. Grandma Eleanor had understood this distinction. Her videos revealed a woman who loved her family deeply, but recognized their flaws clearly. She had forgiven the financial betrayals enough to maintain relationships, but not enough to enable further exploitation. She had found the balance I now sought. The inheritance she left me went far beyond money and property. She bequeathed wisdom, courage, and the validation I had always craved but rarely received. She showed me that love doesn't require perfect understanding, but does demand basic respect. She demonstrated that boundaries aren't punitive, but protective. As New Year approached, I set intentions rather than resolutions. I would continue building meaningful relationships based on mutual respect. I would foster gratitude for the chosen family that sustained me. I would honor my grandmother's legacy through the foundation and through living authentically. Most importantly, I would remember that the most valuable inheritance isn't money or property, but self-respect and clarity of purpose. No one can contest that will. No one can diminish that legacy. If you've stayed with my story until now, I'd love to know. Have you ever had to create boundaries with people you love? How did you balance self-protection with compassion? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this resonated with you. Remember that your worth isn't determined by those who can't see it clearly. Thank you for listening, and may you find peace in your own family journey, whatever shape it takes.